our next session is a slate of technical women from Slack, from engineering managers to leadership beyond the management track. I'm so excited to hand it over now to our Slack panel moderator to get things started. Welcome, Brook.
Thanks, Angie. As Angie said, we're from Slack. My name is Brook. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a manager in the infrastructure group at Slack. I manage two different teams, one for asynchronous jobs and one for data management. I'd like to start us off by just kind of going around the group. And if you want to name, pronoun, and then what got you into engineering or development in the first place. So Leena, you're first on my screen. Why don't you go ahead?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, my name is Leena Mansour. My pronouns are she, her. I'm an engineering manager at Slack. I run a team of mobile developers. What got me into this is I was 16 and I did not want to follow my parents' footsteps. So I didn't take any biology because they're all in the medical field. And where I grew up, your options were you were a doctor or you're an engineer. So I went into engineering. I thought computers were cool. It worked out for me. They are cool. So here I am.
They're still cool, right? Otherwise, I got to find a new job.
They are, yeah.
Mina, how about you?
Hi, so my name is Mina Markham. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a staff engineer here. And I got into engineering kind of by accident. I used to be a graphic designer professionally, and so I taught myself basic HTML and CSS so I could build a graphic design portfolio website so I could get a job. But as I learned how to do that, I found it interesting. So I kept learning how to do more and more web development things. And eventually I realized, hey, I could actually get paid to do this instead of the design stuff. So I kind of I shifted my attention to learning more about that and eventually got a job as a front-end developer and kept learning and growing in that. So it was organic, but kind of by accident.
And I heard you started working at Slack because you thought that's your best way to meet Beyonce, right?
Yeah, obviously. I'm still waiting. I'm crossing my fingers, but yes.
I mean, we know a few people who are pretty cool use Slack, but maybe she doesn't yet. We got to
maybe not yet, but I'm if anyone out there has a connection, just hook me
up. That's right.
I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, Mina's information is in the things, and she's serious. Find Beyonce for it.
I am dead serious, yes.
All right, Rukmini, how about you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Rukmini. My pronouns are she, her. SVP of engineering in Slack. I run Slack's platform. I wanted to be an engineer since I was 8 years old. This has been my dream. I'm a total geek. I love building things. And I'm happy that I was able to realize an early childhood dream.
Heck yeah. Tracy?
Hey, I'm Tracy. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a principal engineer at Slack. I also kind of got into tech by accident. I started off studying mathematics and originally thought I was going to get a PhD and become a professor of mathematics. I know that's a very glamorous career choice, but then I, midway through grad school, kind of figured out that that wasn't actually what I wanted to do and ended up leaving and sort of by accident getting into tech, starting off in QE and then working my way over to development. But now I've been in tech for a very long time and have found it like really, really great and fulfilling.
We'll start with you, but can you say what's your title at Slack? Because I think people don't quite know yet. Brooke. Oh, you did? I'm sorry.
I'll say I'm a principal engineer, and I've stayed
the highest
in the
level
IC
here, right?
side. It is the highest level at Slack. And I've sort of stayed on the IC side of things. I've never switched over to management, and I've really found that for me, at least, I'm much more interested. I'm interested in kind of having impact on kind of the direction of product and planning and all those things, technology decisions. But I want to do it kind of from the standpoint of being more of a tech lead and not from moving into management.
Yeah, that makes sense. And myself, I guess I should say, I started off in literature. I wanted to be a writer. I still am a writer, but I needed to make money. And it turned out fixing computers was a better way to make money. So I started off in IT, moved into sort of ops and SRE work, and now eventually back into management. And now I wrote promo packets, as Rukmini says. We have a thing at work called Manager Olympics, where we have a series of events that take place over a few months, and we just finished. So now I'm just celebrating. But yeah, I like working with people better than computers these days. They're harder to troubleshoot, but they're more rewarding when you do. Computers just say 200 okay. People might cry or say thank you. It's nicer. So, for let's say the opposite side of Tracy, Rukmini, what made you want to get into management?
That's a great question. So I started my journey like being an individual contributor. It was a very tiny company. So me being a principal engineer is nowhere equivalent to Tracy's principal engineer at Slack. Woohoo. But I was a principal engineer in a tiny company. And my CTO then came to me and he was like, you are really good with people. I always feel like you can give hard feedback. You're able to drive for clarity. You're hyper organized and you're bringing everyone together. Have you considered moving into management? And like most of you, I went through all the stages of grief ICs go through when someone first says you should be a manager. And I was like, no, I won't do it, to maybe I should explore it. And the assurance I had from him at that time, which was very, very advanced for the time it was in, was if you hate it, you can go back to being an IC. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try. And I tried. And, to Brook's earlier point, people don't come with debug statements. They don't come with, here's how you're supposed to deal with me. And I just found it just so much more complex than programming, and also so much more rewarding. I think that's the part I want to underscore, because I realized that my purpose in life was to enable others finding their purpose and their journey. And I just wanted to be that bystander and cheer them along. And it brought me a lot of joy in ways like coding did not. So I never looked back. I stayed. I'm one of those people who just absolutely loves being a people manager, because no 2 days are the same for me.
Now, I've heard when you're a manager, you never get to code again, right? You can never do a personal project. You can never, even open a computer other than for a meeting. Is that right, Leena? Have you had that experience?
I believe it's illegal, and the police will show up at your door if you launch any kind of code editor. Yes, that is true.
The Stack Overflow.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely can. And I know I try every now and then, but you get so rusty and then you go try to touch it and you're like, wow, I'm really bad at this. But it is still really fun to build little things just for yourself. But
I always try to over-engineer my stuff. My website's built on like Netlify with Docker containers and all sorts of stuff, because I'm like, oh, if I can't program at work, I'm going to do it way too much for my blog. And Mina, like, did you have pressure as well, kind of to become manager, become like a lead in some way? I imagine so, because people respect you quite a bit.
So yeah, a little bit. There was a fork in the road in my kind of career at Slack, and for a long time I thought, and not just at Slack, but my career in general. And for a long time I thought that to be a leader, I had to go into management. Like that was the only way to like truly lead anyone. And luckily, I had a great manager at the time who let me know, hey, you can be a leader and not manage people, which is great because I didn't want to manage people. So I went the IC track instead. But yeah, for a long time, people kept trying to tell me, hey, you make a really good manager, you should look into it. And not to say that I wouldn't be good at it, but it's not a skill that I necessarily want to do. And I like coding. I want to stay more into coding and more into doing architecting and strategizing. So the fact that I was able to like shift into IC leadership and be more of a mentor to people versus like actually managing people was great.
Yeah, that makes sense. And for me, I'll say as a manager, I manage 2 teams. I absolutely depend on my leads, like the tech leads I have. I wouldn't be able to do most of my job if I didn't have their advice and their ideas and even their mentorship with other people on the team. So it's pretty key. So like, what keeps you going every day? I know it's been a hard time. We'll start with Mina this time, but like it's COVID, there's a war, there's all this stuff going on, whether you're working with people, working with computers, there's not a lot of respite sometimes. The internet's still there. So how do you stay motivated?
I can answer that. I've actually kind of disconnected just a little bit from social media just because the onslaught of information does get very draining. So I'm kind of staying motivated by narrowing the focus of what I let grab my attention. And I mean, that's a little bit of a privilege because I can like turn off certain things and not pay attention to them, which is not what everyone can do. But yeah, I've decided to kind of shift to kind of focus on more things closer to what I can control, the sphere of influence I have, because I get really anxious when I see all these things happening that I can't do anything about. So I've tried to like stay motivated to like, okay, what can I personally do? And that helps me to like find some purpose in getting up and doing the work that I'm doing. So yeah.
That makes sense. What about you, Tracy? What keeps you coming back to Slack?
Well, I think that, it's for one thing, I think that like one thing that's nice about kind of getting to like the higher levels of being an IC is that you really get to kind of design what your role is yourself. Like no one's really telling me what to do at this point. No one's telling me what to do. And so I'm really kind of figuring out, what do I want my role to be? I sort of actually went through this exercise recently where I tried to write down and define like, this is what I think my role is. This is what I think I should be doing with my time. And that was actually really interesting exercise to go through and really useful, because it did make me think about like, what do I want to spend my time doing and what do I think is important?
Well, that definitely makes sense. How about you, Leena?
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I mean,
there's a lot going on in the chat too. So
there is. I adopt the stick your head in the sand mentality when it comes to most news. I hear about the big things because you always will, but it's hard when there are things that you can't do anything about. It's also been hard because I'm in Canada, and Canada has been mostly locked down for a really long time. So you kind of find your own ways. So I actually have my like knitting right here. I knit through most meetings. And you just kind of got to focus on the things that, what I keep reminding myself of is like, what do I truly like about the job? And kind of like Rukmini, I really, really enjoy helping people figure out what their goals are and get those goals. So if I'm having a hard time, I just like focus and have some of those conversations with my people and feel like I'm leaving some positivity in the world through that. And then we sleep and we start over again.
Totally. And Rukmini, I mean, you're a boss's boss's boss. So all the pain and suffering and emotions go to you, right? That you're like sort of where it ends. Is that?
Actually, I think it just comes down to, I think whether you're an IC, whether you're a manager, use your empathy, put yourself in other people's shoes. You are leaders in a company. When global events out of your hands are happening, first process the change for yourself and what it means and how you're going to show up. Because one thing that's really important in a leadership position, whether manager or not, you are a multiplier. People look up to you in moments of stress, in moments of uncertainty, and they try to understand for themselves how they should react. And this is where, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to say you don't have shit together today, and that's okay. I didn't last week because I led teams in Ukraine for many, many years, and this has been very heavy on my heart. But just like knowing it's okay to be vulnerable, having empathy, and keeping people focused on like what matters, like what's your impact on the business, why are you here, and understanding what motivates people, like what do you want to be motivated by, and kind of like redirecting them to that is, I think, the most helpful thing you can do as a manager or leader.
That totally makes sense.
Just to build on that, one of the things that I do often, I know I've seen some of the people on my team in the chat, I know they're here. I have no problem telling people, you know what, I need a mental health day. And I think that's so important because we all need mental health days. And it's a lot easier for your team when they see you taking mental health days to say the same and not be like, oh, I'm vomiting today. Like that's extra energy that they have to expend to make up something. So be honest, you're a human being, and so is everybody else. If you folks know the pug, the no bones and bones pug, we use that a lot in our channel to indicate our status of how much energy we have that day. But yeah, just be human.
I like that. I always just say my stomach hurts, but then I'm like, well, if my stomach hurts, I can still type. So, what can you do there?
No, I kind of agree with both Rukmini and Leena that I am very open when I need a break. So I will tell people very clearly, hey, I need a mental health day. I don't even try to fudge it with hey, I'm sick. No, I need a break. I am burned out. I need a break. I will see you all in a couple of days. And my manager was very, very open, very receptive to it. So yeah, I try to model that healthy behavior. I'm like, no, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I need a break. I will come back when I'm 100%.
And we have sabbatical now at Slack too, which I don't know if any of y'all taking advantage of it. I have a person on it right now, and you get a week for every year that you work. I always tell my people, I'm happy to approve up to 2 or 3 weeks, no problem. Past that, it gets harder to justify, but take a sabbatical if you want to take off a month or two. That's amazing. So. Tracy, you've been here for a while. Have you taken a sabbatical yet, or?
I haven't taken a sabbatical here. I worked at a previous company that had sabbaticals, and I think they're super, super great and super wonderful for avoiding burnout because everyone gets burnt out after a while, and being able to take a longer break is really awesome. So I'm hugely in favor of the benefit and have done it in the past.
Yeah, it definitely helps to kind of reset a little bit. Because otherwise, I feel like you go on a vacation for a week, and like by the end of the week, you're like starting to forget that you have a job, but then you have to remember, and woof, then you have to go like, what do I do here? So, one thing I wanted to ask, like Tracy, especially, is how do you find your ability to lead from the front, sort of from being an engineer? Like, in what ways are you able to influence product decisions or strategic decisions? Like, how do you navigate that?
Well, for one thing, I think you have to find like the right place, the right fit for you, the right company fit. I mean, I don't want to make this all about how great Slack is, but but it is a place where ICs really can be leaders and where you can have that kind of influence, and not every company is like that. So I think that's one big thing, is you just have to find the right fit for you, the right place where you are able to have that impact. And then I think a lot of it is just being willing to kind of step forward and kind of take ownership of things and say like, hey, I really have opinions about what the technical direction of this part of the product should be. Let's talk about them,
And then you kind of, it's collaborative too, right? Like, it's not just like, here, I'm the sage czar, I'll tell you everything.
Yeah, it's definitely also a big part of it is trying to get other people trying to bring forth the ideas from other folks on your team or beyond your team and say like, hey, part of it is just calling out like there's, there may be some big issue that we need to address. Now let's try and together figure out like what the best path forward is. And then you as the leader can kind of be the messenger for that to, executive leadership or whoever.
And Mina, how about you? How do you influence all of us manager folks?
How do I influence the managers? Oh wow. So as I've gotten to the staff level, my manager sort of sees me more as like a partner as opposed to I don't want to use the word subordinate because that's not the right word, but basically we work together to kind of figure out what the next steps for the team are. Like, he'll ask me for my opinions about, hey, what do you think we should be working on? Like, it's more like what Stacy was talking about how defining our own path. Like, now he counts on me to see all the things that he can't see, like where are the trouble spots in our code base or the trouble spots in our processes. And so I use my sort of heads down nature into more than the weeds to kind of let him know what's important and what our team should be focusing on. And aside from that, I also let him know hey, I think this person would be good for this project. So I help him to figure out how to best utilize other members of the team as well. And from what I know of how they want to grow and what they're capable of and things of that nature. So it's a little bit of it's become less of a, here's what you need to do, Mina, more of hey, Mina, what let's figure out what the next steps for the next quarters are kind of together. And I like that. I like it a lot.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I like that. So one question I wanted to ask too, maybe for Leena or Rukmini, is as you got into your career and you started into management or into leadership, did you have someone that sort of mentored you or someone that you kind of emulated or learned from or sponsored you a bit? And maybe tell us about that. Let's say, Leena, go for it.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of great role models that I worked with. I had to kind of fight to become a manager. I had to quit jobs and threaten to quit jobs and leave and come back and do all kinds of things to get my people management role I really wanted. And I had a lot of people who supported me in helping me figure that out. But I think that honestly, the most important piece and the most important and helpful thing in my journey being a manager is my peer mentors. I always have a group of managers who are on my level, but also higher, just varying levels. That is a small trust group that you can go with your problems and talk out how you would solve it. It's been the most helpful tool for me for anything, because you don't just get one person's perspective, you get a whole group trying to solve your problems for you. How do you recommend?
Yeah, I have a squad that speaks truth that I don't want to hear to me. It's super important. It's people who tell me I don't have shit together and I need to fix things. And it's really important to have that squad of people who think of your scope larger than you can think for yourself. Right? They shouldn't be narrow you down. They should actually open things up for you. And I rely on them to show me opportunities that I haven't even considered for myself. And they're extremely important for you at every stage of your career, for you to have a squad.
I have my business boys. So my former founders of the company that got acqui-hired by Slack. And I asked them a lot of advice about finances and whatever else. They've founded companies, they've led stuff. And So I'm always just like, hey, tell me the secrets, business boys. So I also highly recommend bicycling during and after work, because the computer's not there and you can escape. So I think that we are out of time, but any last words of wisdom from anybody? We just take more breaks.
Breaks. Only take whatever path you actually truly want, not the path that you think you're supposed to have. Find cool people to talk to you about what that role looks like so you can actually understand.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Really appreciate your time. And I'll pass it off to Sukrita.
Thank you so much. Special mention to your amazing cat.
Oh, yeah, that's Snorri. He gets sad when I talk to other people besides him. So he's right here right now. Hold on. Snorri, do you want to say hi to everybody?
Hi, Kenny. Thank you so much to the women at Slack for sharing your amazing insights on leadership from both the management side of the house as well as from the IC side, the principal and staff engineer side.